Hey guys, what's up? It's Randy Rector back at you with another video. And in today's video, we're gonna be covering Forscore. Today, we're gonna go over the app inside and out. I'm gonna show you the best ways to optimize this for your setup. And of course, talk about some of the pros and cons of using an iPad for sheet music. Let's get right to it. So what exactly is Forscore? Well, it's really just a great PDF reader built for musicians, for scores. What you can do on that is you can read your scores, you can build set lists, you can organize your music, you can share them with your friends, you can annotate with all these musical terms. What you can't do is something like downloading your scores and changing the keys, or rewriting the lyrics, or adding music notation, that kind of thing. This is really just a PDF reader that lets you take all of your music, put it in PDFs, and view it in a way that makes sense to musicians. To make this video, I put the question out to a bunch of my musician friends, as well as the Forscore users group on Facebook, and I said, what's your favorite feature or largest missing feature? And I got some really great answers. I'm excited to share those with you. I'll sprinkle them in as we go through the features today. Got this response from Brendan. He says, this app is the most perfect app I've ever used or owned. By perfect, I mean that it's clearly designed and built by the same people it was built for, musicians. I couldn't agree more. So let's dive right in here. We're gonna start at the basic features and work our way right up to the advanced features that you might wanna use. When you load a score into Forscore, it's gonna default to one of your libraries. And now libraries are basically a great way to separate your musical acts. So let's say you sing with a choir and you also play in a Saturday night bar band. You wanna keep those scores separate so when you're building set lists, you don't see all the same stuff and it won't get really crowded. It kind of categorizes each act that you play with. All right, next up we have set lists. So this is kind of the meat and the potatoes of Forscore. This is where I think the program really shines the most. Set lists are exactly what they sound like. You can pick tunes from your library and add them to a specific set. So you can make that set organized manually, alphabetically, fresh, or shuffle. Now, fresh is actually a really useful feature because it's gonna organize the songs by what you haven't played since the last time you opened your app. My wife and I use this feature all the time when we're working on the cruise ships, when we're playing by the poolside. We just have a set with 40 or 50 songs in it, and we know we're always gonna be playing the newest stuff. My buddy Jesse says, I like being able to share the set list with all the notes, order, and everything. And yeah, so there are actually 6 different things that you can do when you share a set list. So you can share the text list. This is basically gonna be a list like just titles and composers, and it's gonna go through in a text format. Set list only is gonna be a Forscore file that if they also have the same PDFs on their device, you send the set list, they click open, and it's gonna arrange their PDFs in the right set list. Include scores means you can send the set list as well as the PDFs. They're all gonna be separate PDFs and they'll all load up in the right order again, but it's also sending them those files. Include scores and extras. That means that they're also gonna get the annotations you put on. So if you put squiggly marks everywhere and you don't want them to see it, you don't wanna use this option, you just wanna send the scores, but scores and extras will give them all your notes and any kind of repeats that you've drawn in, that kind of thing. Merged PDF. That means you're gonna send them a very, very long PDF of your entire set as one single PDF. And finally, we have annotated merged PDF. This is gonna have all your annotations all in one document. Just be careful with this though. If you send them an annotated PDF and they want to erase some of your squiggles, they won't be able to. The annotation tool is pretty self-explanatory. All the annotations here are musician-based, relatively easy to use. You can see I've got some music notation here. On the right side, we've got some expressions. And then of course we have our various markers. And what's cool about these is you can customize them to any color you want, any size that you want, even the transparency. We've got something new in the latest version, which is copy and paste, which will let you grab sections of a PDF and move them around. Freeform text box for leaving notes for yourself. And on the right side here, we have layers, which is actually new to this version as well. So what's cool about this is you can make your annotations on different layers, and you can actually just choose to make certain layers invisible and keep other ones. All right, next up we have metadata. So what I like to do is throw any artist who's actually played the same song into the composer category. That way, if somebody at a pub asks me to play a song by Taylor Swift, for instance, I can just go to her name, see all the songs that she's played, even if they're not specifically her songs, if there's something that she's covered, and people will really appreciate it. They're gonna think you're a music encyclopedia, they're gonna appreciate your knowledge and that you've done your research, and it makes it a lot easier to find relationships between different artists that way. The rest of the metadata is also pretty useful, so I always add in the key and the total length for the song. That way when I build a set list, it's gonna show the keys, and I can try to avoid having too many songs with the same key in a row, as well as it's gonna show me the total length for the set list, which is hugely beneficial. I use this all the time. If someone says, hey, we want you on stage for 45 minutes, I'm gonna put about 40 minutes of music in there, knowing that I'm gonna tune a couple times, probably talk to the crowd a couple times, and usually play some longer intros and that kind of thing. So it just helps you get really close to that benchmark so you know you're not, under preparing or over preparing it. It helps you be much more accurate. My buddy Dan says, I like attaching a music file to each PDF, makes practicing super efficient. Yes, it certainly does. For both practicing and things like backing tracks, you can link them directly to each score. So to the right here, we have the search function. Now Luca says on that better organization of the scores, it is pretty limited in terms of how you can categorize things. There isn't like an open folder system that you can use. And on that same note, Roger says, I would like to see a folder-based file system. Yeah, definitely. Folder-based file system would be huge. And to the right here, we have Metronome, Pitch Pipe, and Tuner. And now Rob does say it needs lots of Metronome improvements. I totally get that. It's not as advanced as some of the Metronome apps. I don't mind it too much. I do like that it has the ability to use the visible metronome, so the borders around your score will flash in tempo with a song. Next up, we have links. So links are basically gonna allow you to put a button somewhere that links to another spot in a song. So maybe you wanna go back 3 pages or something like that. So you get to the spot, you press the button, it's gonna shoot you back to that other page, and there's gonna be a blinking icon that will show you where your eye should go. All right, buttons. These will allow you to start and stop a metronome, change the tempo of your metronome, seek, play, or pause audio. This is really great for backing tracks. This is how you can actually just start them on your score. Jesse also says, Rearrange makes everything to do with cuts and hard to flip DS and DC moments easier because you can just make copies of the pages and just let it go forward. Yeah, so basically what you can do is, let's say you have a song that's 4 pages long, and at page 3, it wants to DS back to the beginning, and at page 2, there's a Dakota to go to page 4. What you can do is make copies of all of these pages and shift them into the arrangement so you can just press next, next, next. Works really great with the page turner pedal as well. Crop tool here uses an intelligent crop to get rid of all the empty space on the page. I have absolutely no idea what the turtle and the rabbit means. No clue. Services, this is where things get awesome. This is one of my favorite features of the app. Alex says, downloading from Dropbox directly into a set list by selecting multiple PDFs. So what you can do is back up all your PDFs to something like Dropbox, and you literally just tap the files and they're gonna auto load into Forscore, and then you simply just drop them into your set list. It's so incredibly easy, and it makes it so simple to keep a backup of all of your stuff so you never have to worry. You're not relying on one source. All right, Darkroom. Jesse says, the scan tool is dope when someone gives you a hard copy of a chart, but the rest of your stuff is PDF. You can scan and make a PDF. Yeah, and the Darkroom feature does exactly that. So it's gonna let you take a picture of any sort of score, and it's going to convert it to a PDF. And I gotta say, it actually does a really good job making pretty crappy photos look good and look usable within Forscore. Down below, we have a piano. It's super handy when you're learning harmonies, like in a rehearsal setup. I use it in theater all the time. So when we're having like harmony days, I'll sit there with a score right in front of me and the piano open, and I can just, I see my part coming up and I can kind of just, plunk out the notes so I can get my ear ready for that part. Q is gonna let you control multiple devices. So my wife and I, we use 2 different iPads when we perform. We have the same sheet music, but in 2 different iPads. So whenever my pages turn, hers will turn as well. Keeps her hands free. She can do hand percussion, stuff like that, and not have to worry about turning pages. Console is a way to hook up your computer through a Wi-Fi network. So basically you type in a domain, it's gonna hook up your computer to your iPad, and then you can drop scores in. It's actually really handy if you're doing a lot of scores and you wanna do them manually, plug in all the metadata. I hate typing on an iPad, so being able to type on my laptop, I definitely prefer that. All right, as promised, let's get into some of the advanced functions. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I carry around one of these. This is the AirTurn BT105, and I've already hinted that you can use one of these guys to turn pages. I definitely recommend getting a tool like this. These come in all shapes and sizes. There's, dozens and dozens to choose from. This is the one I settled with. I love it. It's great. Definitely get a page turner. Another cool feature here is half page turn. What this is gonna let you do is basically turn the first half of the next page. If you're using one iPad and you wanna kind of get a glimpse of what's coming up on the next page, it can be really easy for you. So within sets, you can add a placeholder. So I use these actually to indicate like an intermission or at the end of a set or something like that. So you turn to the page and it's gonna say, get off stage or end of set 1, that kind of thing. And additionally, one step beyond that, my buddy Mark showed me this cool feature. If you take a black page off the internet, like a picture, just a black picture, turn it into a PDF, load it into Forscore, and just title it like black. Then you always have a black page that you can use between sets. Why would you want a black page? Well, 2 reasons. One, It's gonna be easier on your battery. It's a black page instead of a white page. You're gonna save some battery. Second thing, we'd use that in theater all the time because at the end of a song, they want to black out across the stage. They want it to be completely black. So you don't want your bright screen blasting in your face. So we just kind of slip in these black pages every once in a while. You turn to it, the whole stage goes black. It's pretty cool. All right, some additional user feedback that we got from the Forscore group. Jocelyn says, Forscore has come a long way since I started using about 7 or 8 years ago. Jocelyn goes on to say, I can't imagine the days of paper binders and clips for the wind and 3-hole punch reinforcements. We've been there. Al says, wish it could integrate better with keyboards through MIDI. So yeah, one thing I'm actually really anxious to do is to try to hook up a MIDI output from my iPad to send a MIDI signal into my Helix pedal board, which is basically like an amp modeler. And I wanna see if I can get Forscore to change the preset on my Helix. If any of you guys know how to do this or have done this in the past, please send me a video. I'm so curious to know if this will work, because theoretically I could just go to a chart, you click a button, boom, everything's changed. That's pretty cool. And finally, my absolute favorite comment. I didn't see what group this was and I thought you were asking like, do you like your eyes or are you missing a nose? Thanks, Vera. Well, that's about it. We covered just about everything. I didn't go through the settings because there are some additional features. I touched on some of these pros and cons in another video that I did, which was basically using an iPad on stage. So if you guys want to see that video, you can click the link up here. So I hope that this video was useful for you. And if it was, please feel free to do all those things down below that people do. And really appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys in the next one.